these are the things we have to address. And some of these bigger components of it, I always say it's easier to say like these foods are going to really drive inflammation and mess up your hormones over time. It's a lot more insidious and difficult to say, well, don't have that stress, don't have that shame, don't have that trauma. That's some deep work that people have to get into. So I think people don't give that topic of stress and shame and trauma enough attention. You touched upon it, but what are some of the maybe patient stories that you've seen, the true power and gravity that these non-physical things, mental, emotional things, impact the physical?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So, one of the patients that comes to mind is a woman who's actually in the new book, who came to me. She's a pediatrician, and she came to me because she had weight gain. And so she was really unhappy with what she weighed. She had a history of endometriosis and wanted to lose weight. So she heard me talking about metabolic health, and she came to a lecture where I was talking about continuous glucose monitoring. Hopefully we'll geek out over that in a moment. And so she came to me with kind of this batch of symptoms related to weight. And I think weight in many ways is such a poor reflection of metabolic health. You just can't tell from looking at someone on the outside what's going on the inside with all their biochemical processes, which is really the definition of metabolism. So she came to me with this issue, and we started to, as we do in functional and precision medicine, we started to decode some of these messages. We found that her cholesterol, her lipids were frankly a hot mess. We found that she had glucose issues that needed to be addressed. She had a high inflammatory tone, so high sensitivity C-reactive protein was elevated, as well as homocysteine and some of the other biomarkers of inflammation that we measure. And so with a lot of these patients, what I find is that the initial work is checking labs, taking the patient's story, understanding things like I do an adverse childhood experience score on all of my patients. And then as we start to put these pieces together, as the patient starts to feel better, as you come up with a protocol, that's where we really get under the hood. And we start looking at, her moodiness, her irritability, how she wasn't so happy practicing in conventional medicine. And we start to unwind those pieces and come up with, how are we going to deal with some of these past traumas? Pretty much everyone I know that practices medicine has some trauma from their medical training. And so that's the work that I see. I'm really interested in both of those parts of the spectrum, kind of that initial functional medicine work, but then also this deeper, more layered, more nuanced work that often can take 6 months, 12 months or longer to really understand some of these root causes that run very deep and may not even be part of that person's consciousness or awareness. And it certainly wasn't part of what this woman brought to me initially.
Yeah, it's always the things when you're looking at application or health history form, and the holding space for somebody and like the follow-up questions to dig deeper. Those are the things that at first people are thinking, why are you asking this question? Like, what's the relevance of this? I came in for hormones. Why are you talking to me about my childhood? Right? Yeah, it's so, but we uncover so much. And I'm sure you see the same thing, that I see tears almost in every consultation, because that's the work we have to do to really get to the roots of these things that are, for many people, the inception of it at least began to some degree very early on.
Well, Will, you're getting me a bit misty just talking about this, because there's a way that I think functional medicine is held as kind of this very lab intensive, very data collection focused way of working. But I think that doesn't integrate the other part of functional medicine, which is really looking at function of the whole being.